our elite institution, Calcutta Institute of Engineering and Management. Students are the future of tomorrow. Students will grow up to be the responsible citizen of tomorrow. May they grow up to make it proud and achieve the highest human values. This institution was founded by Prashanto Sur, former Minister, Government of West Bengal, Jyoti Basu, and Buddha Bhattacharya, former Chief Minister of West Bengal, with a vision to provide quality of engineering and technology and management education. Students of this institution are taught by such teachers whose teaching goes beyond the classroom. We all have assembled here on this auspicious occasion of 19th Annual Day online. This is a great occasion to welcome our chief guest, Professor Dr. Saikat Maitra, Vice Chancellor, MAKAUT. I welcome other honorable guests, faculty, staff, and students of this institution in this function. Our chief guest does not require an introduction as he is a well-recognized figure. He is in the charge of Vice Chancellor MAKAUT. Apart from this, he is a research-minded person and render selfless as service to the society. Today, webinar title is Education 4.0. I request Professor Saikat Maitra to deliver the speech on Education 4.0. Professor Maitra.
Thank you very much. At the outset, let me congratulate CIM for completing a journey of 19 years, and my best wishes to the management, to all the faculties, to the staff members and the students of this institute. I was associated for some time as a part of the governing body in the recent past, and I have seen that there are lots of innovative practices the institutes are trying to follow, and from the university side, we are also now trying to support all the endeavors of all the affiliated institutes with our fold for taking up innovative practices in teaching and learning to make teaching process, learning process more effective for our learning community. Now today I was supposed to give a talk on Education 4.0, which is basically the new format of education which has been evolved across the entire world in recent time. But before that, let me start with the journey of this education in the history of human civilizations in different formats at different times. If we look closely at the educations, at the emergence of education, from all the documents, historic documents available with us, we'll be seeing that in ancient period up to Middle Ages, the education was basically entirely personalized process where it happened and it took place in close contact with the teachers. And that time, this education was not for the mass, for the general mass. Only it was limited to a few students, and obviously belonging to the elite class of the society. If we look at the education systems that from the stories depicted in Mahabharata, then we will be seeing that all the wars of the kings and the royals, they were entitled to get the educations, and persons belonging to disadvantageous group, they did not have any right because of so many factors. And we described it as Guru Shishya Parampara in India, where Guru or teacher, they used to share their knowledge with students of their choices, depending on their will and depending on their wish. The basic tenets of this education is basically it was mostly informal education. There was no structured syllabi was found and not followed. It existed in ancient India, China, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and this education was initially, it was basically did not have any, this formal written documents, mostly which was delivered by oral practices, by verbal practices. That was the basic features of this education, and the learners, they had to remember entire things. And it continuously this evolved with the beginning of higher education, which culminated in the form of Nalanda, Taxila, Ujjain, Vikramshila in India. In other countries also, emergence of institute of higher education that happened during the 9th century. And one of the major features of these educations, of the higher educations, which evolved from this journey of initial education systems, basically it was religious and spiritual education. Now, as I was telling, that if we look at this education, the format of this education, low student-teacher ratio, flexible schedules, flexible syllabi, highly, this personalized, catering to the need of students, multidisciplinary with languages, astronomy, warcraft, economics, politics. This was the features of educations with the choice of subjects. That was another feature. Some students were better at arts, some at dance, some at strategy, some at cooking, some in politics, etc. This was in different subjects, but also within a single subject. There was also this differentiation. For example, in weapons, in armors, the students, they had the choice of learning a special skill. Again, I am just giving an illustration of Mahabharata. The Pandavas, they had their different skills. Some was experts in archery, some was in mace, some was in spear throwing, some on sword wielding. So within one subject, there were this differentiation, and we could not see any this use of memory technology or mechanics. Only thing you see, memory and knowledge that was passed down within a very narrow lineage. Limited use of manuscripts. So high quality of education was there. So it is there is no denial of the fact, but it was authoritarian. Student was the passive recipient, teacher centric. Teacher was supposed to give knowledge, and they are the absolute control in the classrooms. And there is no questions of using technology. Now this continued up to the 9th century, and then in and around mid 15th century, there were this phenomenal revolution happened after the invention of printing press. Before that, people started to capture all these educations in different formats, in different different materials, like these clay tablets. In old Assyrian civilizations, we have seen that this clay library was there based on these clay tablets. And then in India, use of palm leaves. In some cases, animal skins was used for this writing and for this making the documents, written documents. But this was time-taking. This had limited the circulation, and by this way, education never become this achievable or available to larger section of the society. But entire thing underwent a change in the 15th century when education 2.0 emerged with the invention of printing press, because it changed the dynamics of knowledge reproduction and sharing system of the knowledge. Because books that time became the particles in knowledge dissemination. And then from one to one, there's the earlier practice of knowledge transmission, which was there, it became to one to many, because the books can be easily, this printed, published, and can be circulated. So this is phase of revolution, and best of this revolution, Renaissance reforms that occurred at different countries. Universities were established as a result of all these things as a center of higher learning. In the 14th and 18th, from 14th and 18th century, if you look at the history, in Europe and other countries, universities were established and they opened the door of higher education for common people. So this is one of the revolution as far as spreading of education among the people is concerned. The journey of elite education, it culminated to mass education and women's education, very important part of this phase. Informal education became formal because new disciplines that started to born out of these systems. So this education 2.0, this continued, and then industrial revolution started, because when machines emerged as in manufacturing processes for scaling up of the process, analog and mechanical technology that restructured the proportion of human labor needed for any activity, mass scale use of fossil fuel and emergence of engines, steam engines, internal combustion engines, jet engines, that reduced the size of the entire world, and the communication and archival systems, that is books, that made it easy to store and transfer information and knowledge. And as a result, you see, people, they could migrate, they could take up a journey easily from one place to other in search of education. So it became a very formidable affair. So this education 2.0 continued, and if we look here, the basic features of education 2.0, the teachers and books were the students' primary source of information. And persons with more information, they were considered better educated or smarter. So here also, that means automatically the focus was on memorizing the information and information recall. And same was evaluated by periodic testing. And the better one performs in this testing, the more this successful he or she is. The same content and same teaching methodology is applied for all. No customization or no personalization was undertaken. Technology was used, but it is limited. And this education was, access to education was expanded. But the good thing of previous phase, personalized form of education, that was lost. So this is one of the features of education 2.0. Here, with the progress of time, communication and collaboration that started to grow. As I said earlier, that exam-based systems of the orthodox method of examination that resulted in memorization of knowledge. People talked about student-centric approach, but it was never followed. It was not followed in spirit. And this process continued and continued. Technology started invading in the process. Technology started getting applied in the classroom as a trend indicator, but the class continued to have the same structure. And this process up to the late, this 1990s, this process continued. Student that time, when the computer came up in a big way, student knew the knowledge technology is better than the teachers. Many choices is there. There is no, there is uncoordinated technology correlation with the curriculum. The system cannot properly follow the evolution of technology. There was no teachers training. Data was everywhere. We were never careful at that time to capture this data. After the emergence of internet and World Wide Web, Google search became faster than traditional libraries. The web knows more than the teacher. The classmates, they communicate faster and smarter electronically. They collaborate on plans. So these processes, all these features that was that there at Education 2.0. Then after the 2000, in and around 2000 onwards, Education 3.0 emerged. But this transition, all these things, these are not sharp. Most of the cases, these are blurred, because we cannot identify this, the definite period when this transition took place. And of the late, from Education 2 to 3, all these changes happened, in an overlapped fashion. So when internet and information technology, that became one of the features of our inter-civilizations, then it resulted in democratizations of higher education. Because access to higher education systems, that becomes more, this affordable to deprived classes in mass scale. Online, massive open online courses, that brought another revolution. In 2012, Coursera came up as a, this joint endeavors of two professors from Stanford. And after a short period, EDS came up as an initiative of one MIT professors. So when these online, these courses came up, that changed the entire, this arena, the entire, this horizons of the educations, because sitting at a particular place, getting education from other places, from other universities, that was very much, this affordable and formidable. Sitting here, we can always access the classrooms of top universities of US, of Europe, and of these other countries. And this became very much popular. And afterwards in India also, we had our Swayam platforms, NPTEL, that came up. All these things that occupied a large part of this education market. So, and what happened, the chalkboard was slowly started to get replaced by ICT bearing educations. It is the beginning of digital age, consisting of technology, computer use, improved administration, better learning and research and development in all disciplines dominated by science and technology. It includes these social changes, such as this radio technology, television lectures, internet revolutions. So one of the features of all this of Education 3.0, we started in this way. It was basically student-centric approach. The teacher is transformed into some sort of coordinator or facilitator or advisor or practice guide or learning guide. And students are supposed to researching, flipped classroom method that was applied, more dialogues, because technology is everywhere. Student is self-learning and everywhere, anywhere learning. The class style, this classical style of the classrooms which was there, that no longer exists. Lesson plan, this phrase, that got replaced by learning plans. So here, the internet and cloud storage, that resulted in this development of repository of enormous amount of knowledge and information. Digital communication that rapidly accelerated globalization, and lots of this non-sustenance human inputs that shifted from execution manufacturing to design, planning, management, service, and policy. Because industries also was entering into Industry 4.0. So this the practice of one to many, that assembly line model for the most part, that continued to follow. The focus is still significantly on memorizing information for the most part, evaluated by annual or half-yearly testing. And for the larger part, we are still continuing the uniformity and standardization of content and teaching methodology for all with limited customization and personalization. Problem solving analytical exploration that has gained equivalence to literacy and information recall, but focus was there on service industries. This has led to increased inclusion of soft skill education at the high school, technical level. Teachers and books are key source of information for a majority of people. But we have seen this emergence of flipped classrooms where small percent of institutes, they change their way of teaching. So there has been also the identification for the need for creative arts education in high school, but the deployment of that at a very minimal level. With most of the creative arts or performing arts and sports education, these are considered as extracurricular. These are not, this taken into the main frame of the education. Use of technology in education that compared to the last phase, it has increased significantly, and after 2010 onwards, the people started to talk about education 4.0. Precisely after 2015 onwards, on the ground backbone of the higher education 3.0, this 4.0, new age of higher education 4.0, that started to emerge. Here, the basic feature of education 4.0, it puts the learner at the center, and it enables the learner to choose his or her mode of education by structuring an individual path to achieve the individual goals. It is collaborative, personalized learning, and one can learn either at the campus, one can learn at home, one can learn at workplace, anywhere one can learn. The basic features is co-creation of knowledge and innovation in the center. And whenever or wherever flipped classroom applied, interactive practical classes face-to-face that took place. Learning is done at home or outside this campus, while the students, they develop skills, develop personalized teaching and learning. They can learn all these things from digital platforms, but they can come to the campus for validation of knowledge, for sharing their ideas, for validating their opinions, and for developing their personalities. All these things, campus life, that this importance of campus, it is getting transformed into another format. Learning plans now, these are now called creativity plans. Technology is free and easily accessible. Increased use of virtual reality, continuous evolution, innovation, and need of continuous training and development of new knowledge and skills, that is very much required. So continuous, this faculty development program, teacher development program, these are very much required as the technology has been changing continuously. So to keep this space with all this changing scenario, so these training programs or skill development programs, skill enhancement programs, these are to be adopted continuously. Entire learning environment is different than the traditional centers of learning, such as college and university campuses. It breaks the boundary. Because education 4.0, beyond the boundary, you can call it, this basically it breaks the boundary of space and time. It transforms these conventional students into active learners, because everyone, they have to be active. These learners have to be active to be a part of this education format. They have the entire freedom. The learner have the entire freedom to choose course, their knowledge and skills. And teachers here, they are playing the role of a guiding force. Instead of educators or instead of imparting knowledge, they act as a guiding force for these learners. So this education 4.0 shall eradicate the distance between cultures and society. The student can learn from multiple universities, pursuing choice-based courses and acquiring degrees of their choices. It is a outcome-based education, and if we look at the different features and tenets, accelerated remote learning, personalized learning, choice-based education, choice of education tools, project-based learning, field-specific experience, data analysis, changes in exam pattern and assessment. These are the major features of education 4.0. As a part of accelerated remote learning, it enables the learner to learn anytime, anywhere, as the learning tools and applications will provide opportunities for remote self-paced learning. And the role of classroom will change, wherein theoretical knowledge will be imparted outside the classroom, while practical or experiential knowledge will be imparted face to face inside the campus or classroom. As of education tool, if we look into this, a part of education 4.0 will be the technology or devices used by the students to gain an education. While every subject, there has its own set of knowledge and information that the student can grasp, the road of attaining this knowledge can vary. So that means the students will be able to choose the tools and techniques through which they want to acquire this knowledge. And techniques like blended learnings, BYOD, bring your own device, and flipped classrooms, these are examples of few examples of this view, of these features. And the freelance economy is on the rise and will continue to do. This means the students of today will need to adapt to project-based learnings and working styles. They will need to hone their skills and learn how to apply and mold them as per the situation. So the students should be acquainted with project-based learning during these education systems, and this will teach them the learners organizational skill, time management skills, collaborative skills, and they can further use in their academic career as well as their employment, all these skills for being a very, very responsible and successful professional. So these are all the features of education 4.0. And lots of data are being generated and everything is digitally captured. So at time there we used this manual, effort for collecting and sorting data. But now everything is done by computers. So all sorts of statistical analysis describing, or predicting the future trends, describing the efficacy and efficiency of the systems. That is now very easy. So this is an important feature, so we can understand easily how much efficient or effective the process is followed. Exam pattern and assessment is getting changed because the current student pattern of rote learning, where the students blindly memorize the information given in the curriculum, write down their examination, that will not be the trend anymore. It is essential to understand that a traditional question and answer or subjective writing examination may not suffice the need of future talent requirements. The assessment as a part of education 4.0, therefore, it will be solely based on the current examination pattern. It will be done by analyzing the learning journey through practical and experiential learning based projects or field works on a continuous basis. So this is one of the basic features of education 4.0, and lots of this technological to wearable, digital assistance, cloud technology, instant data access, all these are coming up in a big way. Memorization of this reliance on the memorizing power is not that much required, but reliance on more creativity and innovative skills of the students that will be the learner, that will be leveraged as part of this education 4.0. And here teachers, students together, they will be engaged for generation of knowledge, and they can gather further knowledge through social media, through personal interaction, to interaction with their friends, through community. So there are there's lots of sources from where the knowledge can be gathered, can be acquired, and all these things will be features of this education 4.0. And here we'll be seeing that human skills, the perfect this combinations of left brain and right brain, particularly this logical mind and the creative minds, all these things is perfect combination of all these things for bringing these innovative practices in educations and bringing these innovative things out of these education exercises. That will be the features of education 4.0. So here we will be seeing the lots of new and novel career that will be emerged in coming decades, and we need to prepare our learners, our student community for that process, that changing scenario. And this is a challenging thing. Here, every time we need to upgrade ourselves, otherwise there will be a definitely chance of getting downgraded. So with this, I can see the very there's prospective futures waiting as far as education is concerned, and now we have to work together to take leverage of this changing scenario, because in our case the major strength is our demographic dividend or young mind. The more we will be able to engage this young mind for serving the purpose of growth and development of this country, it will be better for us, and therefore we need to, adopt and embrace all these changes in education or pedagogy or education technology skill or requirement as far as possible, as quick as possible, and as far as possible. So with this, I'd like to conclude. Thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me a chance to share some of my views in education with the special reference to Education 4.0. Thank you very much. I wish all the best for the future growth and development of CIM. Thank you. Okay, I have concluded. Professor Ramprasad Rai.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, Abhijit, you please. Hello, 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 hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Thank you, Professor Maitra, and
you
Vijay
continue
Pitro
with-
is taking on.
Yeah. Ramprasad sir.
Over to chairman, sir. Over to chairman of the session. Please, over to chairman. Over to chairman of the session. Hello.
That
Abhijit?
chairman sir is not with us. So,
Oh, okay. Okay. So now we continue.
okay, wait,
I
sir.
will
1 minute,
open-
1 minute.
I will
Chairman sir is joining.
join him. Okay.
Yeah.
I ask him to continue it and
Yeah.
And thank you, Dr. Maitra, for a very enlightening session. I really enjoyed your trajectory from 1.0 to 4.0.
Thank you very much.
So then, do we have plans to do this in colleges? I mean, it is good, and in corporates we see, but just a question to you. What are the plans of doing it in the colleges, and what are your plans?
Yes, already we have started implementing some part of this Education 4.0 in the form of integrating online programs with our systems, introducing choice-based credit systems in many of the professional programs, in allowing the students to stay at home for learning theoretical parts of their own and to come to the campus afterwards for tutorials and for getting these practical experiences, and this blending of all these programs with different degrees of humanities, computational skills, management skills, so that students will they become able to use their creative minds to the best possible extent in solving the problems, making this all these things this interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, and transdisciplinary in nature. So step by step, we are changing the things. All on a sudden, this change is difficult, but already we have brought many changes in our existing curriculum, in our existing practices, and we believe that out of all these exercises, in near future, the students will be benefited, because we are now giving massive emphasis on utilizing the creative faculty of the students by engaging them in innovative practices, more research-based practices, giving them small problems at different intervals and asking to solve it either individually or in a group, and to come up with a solution which is useful for the society, for practical purposes, for industries. So in that way, we are trying to engage the students, and because you see, the society itself is inertia, but this with our persistence and consistent effort and with the support of all the stakeholders, we are slowly moving ahead. It will take some time, but I'm hopeful that definitely we'll be achieving our goal in transforming the entire educational scenario within this next decade as far as possible, to embrace the opportunities, or to grab these opportunities which are coming up in different formats. Because today's student, when they will be passing out, some new career options there that may emerge. And that is happening. We never knew this advent of electric vehicle that would happen in recent times. Then there will be an option of sending people to this Mars. All these things are coming up, and all these these new professions are also coming up. So we even 10 years before we could not imagine that data science will be of high demand in this country. And machine learning and artificial intelligence will this transform many of the subjects this in different formats. The cyberspace, cyber security, that will be of high demand. We never imagine of all these things 10 years before, 5 years before. So let us see how best we can engage ourselves in making all these in making all these these things to happen so that our students or learners they get benefit out of it.
Thank you, Dr. Maitra. I think Dr. Nyogi is there.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Maitra, for his nice, elaborate, and valuable speech. I hope this will, in this pandemic situation in particularly, his speech will be very much relevant, and it will it has a great impact on the technical education in particular. And moreover, this is just in a seminar what we actually observe that it's a very limited time. It's a very big subject, and but under his guidance and his able mental thought, I think he will be in future guide us, the student, the faculty, and the institute in a much more effective way under this pandemic situation. With this very small 3-4 words, I thank him again and conclude the seminar. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maitra?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think the seminar is being concluded.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this session.
And other must take active part in this function.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
If you have any questions, you can send it to me by email, or if you have any question time now, you can ask me questions.
Yes, it should be. We have many questions. And how this approach should be fruitful, effectively. That we should, all the senior, particularly senior persons, should try. It is just a beginning.
Yes.
The education 4.0, now this is a digital age, so all the topic headline is 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 like this. So what is education 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and 4.0? And why this is necessary to discuss this matter and moving in that direction so that we can have a good, effective result from this technology, whether in the field or in the educational part, whatever it may be. So naturally, there is many questions. Why it is necessary, particularly in this pandemic situation, everywhere. So, our state or our country is in a peculiar situation. So how it can be handled, this situation ultimately, for the progress of technology and progress of society, progress of everything. Thank you. I am very happy that you have selected very good topic. And in future, I request all the persons present here and myself also. In your email, I sent few questions. What you are thinking about this? Because now you are in administration. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of CIM, I offer you our heartful thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, they are leaving. Thanks to all.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. We are ending our session here.
Okay. Thank you.
so ये दो के
Record.